Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Monday, guys. It's 11:11. I hope you are having a magical day or have had, depending on when this posts, but it's not really late. I hope you have had and are having a magical day, and that you are mindful of manifesting the absolute best for yourself and for your life. I definitely pray a prayer of agreement and affirmation over your wishes, your dreams, your hopes, your prayers, your proclamations, your declarations, that they be fulfilled, and that if you don't see the fullest manifestation today or within this next week, that you have profound evidence and proof that it's already underway, which most things that we are believing for usually are. So I just hope that you're able to actually perceive the signs of that, of your faith, ultimately, the evidence of it. And also, of course, that prayer is only specific to intentions and manifestations that are for the highest good of all. Yourself being priority and paramount, of course, but only high frequencies here. So if it's anything low and diabolical and selfish and unlawful, that prayer does not apply for your intentions. You're going to have to go get that somewhere else. Good luck trying. But for the rest of you, the rest of us, yes, it is so, and so it is. All right, so let's see what we got here today. I do hope you've had a great weekend. I did. I don't know if you caught my community post, but I celebrated my son's 9th birthday on Saturday. Well, we celebrated all weekend long, Friday through Sunday. Hell, he's still celebrating as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, we had a really good time this weekend celebrating his life. I always love to reflect on where I was then to where I am now, and literally like minute by minute in some cases of thinking of what I was doing up until his birth and what I was doing after he was here and in the hospital and at different moments during this special time. And today I wasn't even home yet. I was still in Harlem Hospital because I had a C-section. So I actually didn't come home until tomorrow, which would be the 12th. But I was still laid up in the hospital healing, but definitely very hopeful. And as I shared with him, it's a certain hopefulness and horror of becoming a mom for the first time. It's like you spend all the time nurturing this life inside of you, of which is a complete mystery, But then, and there's a connection there, but there's also somewhat of a disconnection because they're not physically here yet. But once they're here and you're looking at this breathing human being, so tiny, so delicate, so impressionable, so pure, and it's all up to you to protect it, to feed it, to nurture it, to guide it. It's a scary thing at first. It's a scary thing at first. So I definitely don't take motherhood lightly at all. I take it very seriously, as I have my own special, some might say even unconventional methods to my madness. I still am even in that, it's because of how seriously I take this honor and this privilege to guide a light in the way of truth. And so a lot of that a lot of that responsibility is rooted in realizing, where I get to do something different than what I experienced, and also realizing where I absolutely get to do some of the things that I did experience, and being grateful that I have a positive point of reference for those things as well. So yeah, anyway, I don't know why. Oh, because it was his birthday, but that kind of spilled into 11/11. But yeah, at this time I was still there, still kind of settling in with the reality of my new responsibility and my new role. And I was still incubated myself in the hospital at that time, because you get a lot of help and support when you're in the hospital, even visitors and family and stuff that were there every day. But once you're out, it really is all on you. So maybe there's some significance here, even in terms of what we've all been manifesting and hoping for and praying for and wishing for. And it's one thing when you have a mental attachment, maybe even an emotional attachment to these ideals, these concepts, these figments of our creative imagination. But perhaps what we are really and truly preparing ourselves for is the physical manifestation and realization, which, as it always correlates, is a whole nother level of accountability that we get to activate when it's actually physically in our possession, those things that we've been just believing for, So now that it's here, it may actually be physically here, but certainly, if not so, on the way. It's on you now to take care of it, to manage it, to grow it, to protect it, to nurture it, whatever it is. It's just as good as I'm praying it to be for anyone that is intentional in a high vibration. So prepare yourself to be one with it, so I guess it did make sense. 10 of Swords, yes, the end of being without, it's the end of the suffering period where you almost get used to things not going your way, or there being some caveat in your plans or in what you projected, and you almost get used to things, maybe even things not having quite the happy ending that you would imagine, or idealize, The 10 of Swords is definitely a dramatic end to a cycle. And in this case, it really just might be, again, the end of suffering, the end of pain, the end of trauma as we've known it in previous cycles. And realizing ourselves in a new light of liberty to not only create more things, really realizing ourselves in the liberty of being a creator first and foremost. Because speaking of, new motherhood, it's like once you have, and of course you don't have to be a mom or a dad to understand this concept, but once you become a mom, there's a certain experience of life giving that you can't unknow. You know what I mean? You're always a mom, whether your kids are with you or not, and you're always once you have given life or given birth, you're always capable of that level of creativity. Even if you don't choose to be or you're not actively trying to be, it's like you've already done it. So that becomes a part of your identity, that's eternal, for the most part, at least lifelong. So it's like what I was 9 years ago, almost to date, 9 years and 2 days, I wasn't a mother yet. I was just arguably young girl, not that young, with, a good heart and a lot of faith and high hopes, and the circumstances surrounding my 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 pregnancy experience and stuff were really quite strenuous, honestly. A lot of it was that, but somehow I was incubated in a way to keep my vibrations really, really high in love between myself and my son, who I knew would experience everything that I was transmitting. But yet and still, I didn't become, well, I guess I was being that before I had actually become. So there's that point as well. But even with that example, it's like what my ideal of pregnancy and my first child and what family would get to look like on my first go at it didn't really pan out to be what I would have conceptualized. However, it's become everything that I've needed, and if it had not been for things going the way that they did, I don't think I would have the strength and the creativity, honestly, and resilience that I've gained to be a new age kind of mom that I feel that I feel is important for this generation of leaders that we're raising. But yeah, so it's the end. But for me, it is even still, it's marking the end. Even him turning 9 is a completion, right? It's the end of a cycle of disappointments, even through the joys and the glimmers of hope and love that have forced their way through, the grayest clouds. You still somehow become accustomed to at least having the side view or like a peripheral posture to almost brace yourself that at any given moment things could look like this. And I would truly celebrate on 11/11 for myself and for anyone that has the audacity to believe for it that this would be the end of that peripheral view, where it's all forward, all faith, all fortune, all favor moving forward, Yeah, and even protecting yourself from those impressions, and perhaps until it gets to be easefully without I would say like it can be easeful at some point, but as I was saying, like you kind of conditioned and it's kind of in your muscle memory to always be on the defense from the other shoe dropping or something falling short or happening that you didn't expect. But with the 7 of Wands, it still is given some hopefulness, like a silver lining of resilience against the strongest opposition. And even to me, in this case with the 10 of Swords, maybe even opportunities not to have to be so defensive, but of course that becomes a reconditioning because for so long we have needed to be on guard in many different ways, and perhaps right now in some ways we still do. But if I'm projecting anything of a future fortune, I would love for it to be something where there's a greater level of security overall for those that feel, that they're justified to feel secure, and safe and sound in their own skin and with their own intentions and decisions, to only have to regard that much and not have to be so defensive against things that ultimately don't have jurisdiction over your energy and over your power. Like, you shouldn't really have to feel like you have to be on defense mode against things that don't own you, and aren't the boss of you, and don't don't have a legitimate say in your vitality, but yet and still we have, and we do, and we are, even actively still taking defensive stands for our own protection and sanity, and for the sake of healthy boundaries being established and enforced that otherwise might be breached, unfortunately, i.e. Ten of Swords, where this is like a sabotage or betrayal type of situation. But if we're looking at this as a true ending of such, and perhaps eventually becoming so reconditioned or comfortable with the coast really being so clear that you don't have to be as defensive, or at least as much as you used to be, or about the things that you used to be most defensive of, or about, then this is really just learning how to relax in the established security that doesn't even really need to be forced. It just exists. It just is, like, and it still is impenetrable. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Exactly. Strength card. Like, what's understood, not needing to really be spoken. Say less, do less type of energy, like not having to be as direct and forward, and maybe even aggressive in some ways against impending threats and resistance, but really just it being, Ten of Wands, it really just being, how can I say it, like a reality, you know what I mean? Like, I want to say like an understanding, but that doesn't really drive it for me. Like, an absolute, or like an assumption, like if you, like, imagine you see somebody with a lion on the street. Are you going to really try them? Like, like, no, you're not. You're going to try to stay as far away as possible. You're going to keep as much distance as possible, lest you end up at the Ten of Swords messing around with a damn lion, or somebody that has a lion for a pet, or companion or whatever. Like, you wouldn't want to mess with that. And that's the type of energy that it almost appears to be effortlessly projected in the Strength card, just by will and intention, like not having to say too much or do too much, or be proactively defensive or aggressive, or, like none of that. Because it can be exhausting. At Ten of Wands, it can absolutely be exhausting to always feel like you gotta put your dukes up, or put your shield up, or draw your sword, or watch your back. And nobody really wants to live like that. I mean, it's still a privilege to have security and have defenses, that are effective. Don't get me wrong now. I'm certainly not unappreciative of that much, but it's like nobody really wants to live having to look over their shoulder or to always um, be being ever conscious of an enemy or some opposition. You want to live in this energy, the Nine of Cups, easefully, content because you deserve to, not because, people that live in a constant state of defense, that should be reserved for those that are in a constant state of offense. Like, not for people that are minding their business and focused on, just keeping their space pure and protected and establishing their own standards and boundaries, and fortifying those boundaries for their own satisfaction, not against anyone else, but just this is what makes me comfortable, this is what makes me feel safe and empowered and protected and strong and resilient and all that good stuff. Like, you should have the right to establish a certain line of demarcation, so to speak, without feeling constantly challenged on that in any way, shape, and form, or like there's any threat of a challenge on that for someone else's sake or by someone else's entitlement. But the Ten of Swords, I can't help but keep going back to the fact that there's something coming to an end. Here's another completion, and then we have two endings: this struggle with the 10 and the upheaval and perhaps even stress here with the 10 of Swords, the 10 of Wands, and then the 10 of Swords with the aftermath of it all. Yeah, here's something to celebrate, the Three of Cups. So I'm on to something here. And even as I'm speaking it, even on 11/11, it's like the audacity to believe that you can just live in the world with, the liberty and space to just be happy and free. Owing no one anything, whether it be explanation, money, time, energy, like just completely beholden to yourself and, of course, to whatever responsibilities you assume, i.e. motherhood and so on and so forth, but certainly not unlawfully to anyone or anything that just assumes the right to your energy or to your force or to your time or to your attention. Yeah. But anyway, there's something Three of Cups to definitely be in celebration about, because we got two endings, a completion, we got strong boundaries of protection, and we got strong will and resilience here with the Strength. So that means that there's power and determination and focus to close cycles out. Again, as I was saying, it's like moving from over that threshold of from what you were to what you have become, like single to now mom, or who you were before you manifested a thing, and now who you get to be in the possession of that manifestation. And that crossover moment, perhaps by way of this very day, is what is bringing I would say the worst of times to a close, as you've known them anyway, to some type of closure. And it's been on account of this strong energy here to stay steadfast on and focused on what brings you the most satisfaction, and to be strong in your will, and also tempered in a great deal as well, not to unleash the beast on everyone that may have righteously deserved for it to be unleashed. But now stepping into a new, or I would say, yeah, I guess it is new, as I became a new mom. Like, it's a new expression of your identity that requires a different, or maybe varying aspects of character, and much of which may be refined along the way as you really get comfortable in this being, whatever it is, from the becoming to the actual being, which again started before the becoming, but as I said, although I was being that mom, nurturing that baby in the womb, regardless of my surrounding circumstances, the becoming, now actually holding this child, or having this child in my physical possession, it was a whole nother level of being and becoming, really getting acquainted with my role and my responsibility and my special way of doing things. Again, some of which is reflective of the past and a reference of the past and what my experiences were, and some of it which was completely new and still is evolving every day. So there's that. But I think the biggest thing that we can give ourselves permission to do, that anyone that resonates with this message, is to, first of all, celebrate yourself for the being, the becoming, and the being again, or whatever, however you see that order, and whether or not you have the possession or not, because I feel like, even speaking about my son and his birthday being so close, and literally me being in the hospital on this day 9 years ago, not quite being released into the world with this new responsibility, but almost, right at that threshold. It's saying something special here about the time that we're in. And I feel like you definitely get to celebrate what it has taken to literally be as you are now, and to allow yourself to release some of the defenses that you felt you've had to maintain in order to protect this realization, and start to veer more into the space of satisfaction and fulfillment. Again, I think the point of me saying something about it just being like absolute and understood, your strength, perhaps could be on account of what you've already exhibited in past seasons before the possession or the realization, right, of this new identity. So you don't have to do as much of this, as long as there's still a maintenance of that will and strength that was cultivated throughout that time. And I feel like it makes for a much more enjoyable experience of the fruits of your labor, as well as a more effective expression of continued and even magnified and multiplied manifestation, to be more in this energy at the 9 of Cups, than feeling like you're always here, and at any given, like, these are 2 tens, the worst tens that you can possibly have, but they're the tens. That means that much of what we could potentially even feel defensive and maybe even paranoid about to incur doesn't even exist anymore. It's over. There's some type of closure that is underway, that probably has already occurred, and you're the last to know, because that's usually how it is, or is certainly underway, that doesn't even have a resonance in your reality enough to arouse a defense, really. You know what I mean? So it's like you could spend your energy on guard in anticipation of something that's already exhausted and maybe even completely, eliminated at this point. Or you can transfer that energy into the strength of your um of your own personal security and affirmation, and also on more focus on the Nine of Cups and cultivating that sense of fulfillment and satisfaction. It's kind of hard to do both, which I think is interesting as to how they are separated. Like this kind of is wedged in between these two energies, but this over here kind of living in its own world. There's something to be said about that. And with the Three of Cups here as well, it's like you can't really celebrate much over here. It's like being at a party and you're watching the door the whole time. Like you feel uncomfortable. You don't know these people. You're scared about who could come in at any minute, or if that's the point if that's how you feel, you don't need to be in that place. You know what I mean? But over here with the Nine of Cups, this is like somebody that has, he's got his own section or his own VIP private table or whatever, and only those that he personally invited or allows in are in, and there's strong security, not just at the door, but at his section in general, or this place, this club, this environment is so secure that he doesn't need to feel on the defense or need to feel like there's any impending threat. Like there's a great disparity in energies here, that I really think is honestly a matter of the mind before anything. Because there's the muscle memory, but there's also the decision that gets to be made. Again, that if I have to feel a certain way amongst people, places, or things, then that means there's a decision to be made about my placement amongst those people, places, and things. And if I can't let my hair down and be comfortable in my own skin and know that I'm safe and secure, I don't have to answer for anything or explain myself or make excuses and concessions for people or conditions or anything like that, then that's where I'm supposed to be. And in that place, you don't need so much of this, but in this place, you don't get so much of that, if you feel me. So it really is a matter of choice here. And I think, again, I'm saying this because it's okay, we don't really know how fantastical the energy of 1111 is. It's a portal, so it's more so about your intentions to decide what energy you invest into this day than anything else. And I would say, like, if there is an opportunity to have your most desirable outcome, then you would want to invest your most desirable intentions and energy, right, for that realization. But to each his own. You don't have to really resonate with the day or any particular day if you don't feel it, because that can also be true for you, and that's fine. But it's like, for whatever it's worth, if you have an opportunity to empower your brightest intentions, and what was I going to say? Now I kind of lost my thought. Hold on a second. What was I saying? Oh man, I completely lost my thought. I really lost my thought. It might come back to me though. Maybe that was the point, perhaps, that you can, if you have the choice, and this is on any given day, you know, whether it be an 11:11 or a 12:23 or whatever, that 12:21 is what I really should say. But whatever day it is, you know, like if you have the opportunity to visualize and envision the absolute best, then it would be much more, it would be a much better use of time, or I would say like efficient exertion of energy to do so, than to spend it being paranoid about the worst. And that's probably not exactly what I was going to say, but that's what's coming up right now, so I'm gonna just leave it at that. Oh, and I don't think maybe I did say this, but as I was saying, like, this is the moment for many that have already been working and visualizing and fantasizing and praying and proclaiming, it's now coming into fruition. So you can kind of drop the riot act to a large degree. Not to say you are naive and defenseless or anything like that, but a lot of what you have felt you needed to do to feel secure was more or less probably formality, quite honestly, than it was absolutely necessary. And this switch in energy to be more secure, that's what this is really giving, like an internal security with your external security. There is no paranoia over here. It's just as certain as it is conceptualized, is as real, as true as it is, how can I say this, delivered, I guess, or created. There's not a great deal of space here for doubt and even failure. You know what I mean? Like there's something special about this side of the table that I keep feeling drawn to really, tap into. Because I often see the Nine of Cups as like a supreme self-esteem, and the strength definitely doubles down on that with Leo energy, like this courage and high self-esteem and just like boldness to know that I'm good, like I'm good, and there's nothing that could present itself to be a threat at this point that really that would have any leeway to depress this frequency of energy. And this is something that, for all the work that was done on the lowest frequencies, when you did feel you had to be defensive, this is the least that you can have the expectation to receive and maintain. As fantastic. Oh, that's what I was saying, because 11:11 is like a fantastical day to some. It's just, it makes sense to others, but wherever it is that you fall, it's like, whether you believe this is the day of pushing your manifestations through, literally giving life and birth and deliverance to your best intentions, or any particular day is, it's like if you've done the work, if you have dedicated yourself to being resilient and to being focused and protective and standing your ground on what you truly believe in a righteous way, and determined to create in every circumstance, you know, and no matter what, like always focusing on being creative in the most high vibrational way possible, you owe it to yourself and honestly to the divine that has supported these efforts, you know, greatly, to have this to tap into this resonance here, to tap into this resonance here. It's like all this for you to still be defensive and still be nervous and still be shaking in your boots and, you know, worrying about if you're going to be good at what it is that you've already been being, you know, whether or not you deserve this opportunity or deserve this gift, this fortune, this fate, if you have what it takes to see it through, to protect it, to do right by it, to advance it. You know, it's like me being in the hospital on this day 9 years ago, wanting to stuff them back in, like, nah, I ain't ready yet. That was real crass, I know. But, you know, it's like, no, but, you know, he's here and he's such a precious gift. And if it has manifested, first of all, there were some things I had to do, as we all for anything have had to do, for it to be possible, right? So that means you've called it in. You were in agreement with this blessing, this blissing. And if it has materialized, especially to the point of tangibility, there's no need to question and there's no need for defense, because it's like the divine actually delivering the evidence that it trusts you with this new level of assignment or new level of position, whatever that may be. I'm speaking about it as motherhood because, like I said, that's a huge job that never really ends, I suppose, until you do. And then even that's arguable, trust me. But yeah, but whatever it is, it's like you, just as sure as I didn't have time to be contemplative about my readiness or the, you know, every threat known to man as I'm laying in that hospital bed, bassinet by my side, that could possibly go wrong and affect this precious little baby that I love so much. All that I had time to do and still only have time to do is to trust in the spirit of my nature and then my human being, which has been wildly cultivated in resilience at this point. And also with my mind and heart focused on the absolute best intentions for all, above all. I ain't got time for nothing else, really. And of course, you know, being a mother, you can get very protective, but the strength of your power really is more in this. And I feel like that would be the way forward, whether we're talking about a kid, an opportunity, a new business, a new job, a new relationship, you know, whatever it is that you're experiencing a new identity in, as it is unfolding now, you lead better in this frequency than in this one. It's already understood that you're protected, you're chosen, you're resilient, you're strong, you're you have a reason to feel highly esteemed because you are, you know, like all of that is what you have a right to. And I feel like what ultimately the divine would want to have you be activated in so that you can be your most effective. Let's see what else we got here. I know that was a lot, but I felt like I had to get through that. Maybe just for myself, I don't know. But here we go with the Six of Wands, which is again like this crossover threshold moment where you're moving to more peaceful and calmer waters, perhaps again even emotionally here with the Queen of Cups, where you only have energy for what is most productive, and that's what you're looking forward to. That's the direction you're headed into. Also heavy emphasis on love here, more so self-love and nurturing yourself, because that's another thing with motherhood. You also have to find the balance to still prioritize your own wellness. Otherwise, you can't really be the best mom that you ideally would want to be. So there's that aspect of it too, finding, which is all of what I said, still reverencing yourself, in the highest value and in the highest frequency for the purposes of being your most effective, efficient, and productive, and it's allowing yourself, is really giving yourself permission to do that unapologetically. So even with this great charge of new responsibility or new identity or whatever it is that there's this becoming of, there's still the, I don't even know how to say it because it sounds so harsh to say responsibility or accountability to love yourself, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's that important though, that it's almost like non-negotiable. Well, it kind of is, non-negotiable to stay out of this frequency, or to actually transport yourself out of it, as I was saying before, to the point where it doesn't have to be such a conscious effort or aggressive effort against this anymore, where you're like, okay, I can calm down, I can put my defenses down, or I don't have to be so on guard or so skeptical, or so that, you know what I mean? Like transitioning yourself out of that mental space to be more easeful and open. And again, allowance has been a big word for me this season, because there's more of a submission and a surrender in the posture of, in the frequency of allowance, than there is an aggression. And that's what this energy is giving, like feeling like you have to almost be responsive or reactive, or at least on guard to be so at any given moment. But this here is what's really kind of transporting you out of that frequency more over to this side. Seeing the love and the highest quality of, I guess the precious moments of even your past experiences, even the most unfavorable ones, and deciding very certainly what of it you allowed to consume you, or what gets to be released and washed away, like literally filtered out. That's this transportation here, to where you can let everything affect you emotionally, and having a response and a reaction that is quite sensitive to being very masterful over your expressions and your responses. Really exhibiting true strength and power here, where you determine what has value, what makes an impact, and what doesn't. And you ain't got to pick up nothing to do it. It's just a matter of an established boundary and an intention that fortifies that security, especially when we're talking about emotionally and energetically, that can't be breached no matter how hard somebody may try, where there are all types of projections and infections going around, and you're not bothered by any of it because you're too busy focused on what directly impacts you and what you have the power to make an impact on. Period. Nothing more, nothing less. And being 100% okay with that. That's not easy for a lot of people, especially not in this climate where we're virtually being brainwashed to feel like we should be oversensitive and reactive to every stimuli, things that we don't even really care about when we sit and think about it. Exactly, Nine of Swords. So with so much on the horizon to gain in terms of responsibility and accountability and management and material, and literally now laying hold and possession of things that you have been probably hoping for years, maybe months, but perhaps years, lifetimes, or for them to materialize in the most desirable way. You just can't afford to allow your energy to be too impressionable to affect this becoming. Because I feel like the main thing here is that whether you take stock in 1111 or not, something is coming, because I'm speaking more so about the posture of readiness and reception and management than I am about the manifestation itself, because I think, to me, it feels fair to say that that work has already been done. And whatever is yielded of it is either already present with you or definitely coming around the bend. So this is really about, again, the allowance of allowing yourself to be comfortable in this new realization, because for some it may be a bit of a shock to the senses. Like I said, me in the hospital is like, you've been praying for it, you've been carrying this baby, that this is what you've been working for, this is what you've been planning for, but to actually have it, that's another level. That's a whole nother level of shock that sometimes can cause for an adjustment, a good adjustment, because you ain't got much time. Lucky for me, I had a C-section because I had one extra day in the hospital. Otherwise, I would have been home by today. But you ain't got much time to accept your fate and to allow yourself to be as you've already been. You know what I mean? I think that's why I keep drilling the point of the being and the becoming, because you could get into the shock, as I, had a moment of like, oh my God, now I have to become this like superwoman because I got this beautiful little delicate gift, and considering all the things that I would need to do to really, almost make myself worthy to put, to care for it. But the ways that I had navigated my pregnancy experience and the ups and downs and highs and lows and the decisions that I was making to nurture that being within me before I had even become was the being. So as long as if you can always refer back to that space and time, you without all the aggression, without all of the defensiveness, you always have that point of reference to refresh you, and to keep you on track. Because at the moment of realization, it can be a stun or a shock, as I'm saying, to the senses, to start to feel like, to flounder, like, oh my God, now I gotta do this and I gotta do that. Like, what about this? And, say you become a very popular business owner overnight, and you could start to scramble like, oh, I got to get this in place, and I need my marketing and my PR and this and that, like all these things you feel like you got to do. And maybe the to-do list has grown and it will grow, but the grounding is in the being that created this opportunity in the first place. And as long as that is maintained purely, you can always expand and expound as need be. Again, just as certainly as, like assuming the position as you've already been assigned to it. You know what I mean? Like that, whatever it is that's coming into fruition is your baby, and you were already mothering it and nurturing it before it even became what it is. So you ain't got to get crazy or frantic about what more you need to be or do or have to be most effective, just as long as you keep being authentic, and again, allowing all that's necessary to be added unto you in proper time. Rest and rejuvenation. This is again like a willful like a willful resolve, you know what I mean, like a surrender type of energy. And it could also be mental exhaustion, so it just again depends on where you are with it. Like, are you going to relent to the flow, as I'm trying to convey, of how you don't really have to throw yourself into a tizzy to feel effective. You know what I mean? Like maybe you might need to sit down and meditate and allow things to come to you as to what the next steps are, or how to advance, or how to evolve from a certain point, or what to do next. Like honestly, I feel like I became even more deeply spiritual after becoming a mom in certain ways, because I had to go within a great deal more than I did. I had to be more intentional about going within to consult my supreme self from the inside out than I was before, when I was just, like doing all of the formality type stuff, going to the doctor's appointment and making sure I'm eating this or whatever, you know what I mean? Like making sure I don't fall down those steps and, stuff like that, but once he was here and there was so much hands-on busy work to do actively, I had to take more time to manage my soul, to nurture my soul, so that from the internal space I was still regenerating myself to the point that I still had more love and excess and overflow to pour out than, and not deficit, but more in surplus than I had in what's the word? Not deficit, but you know what I mean. Like I wasn't pouring out on empty. And also a lot of things that I just couldn't control, I also had to be more surrendered to in the highest frequency. Otherwise, I would have mentally exhausted myself. Again, back to that ideal of what I would have wanted my experience to be. Much of it I had to surrender for the greatest good of all, and believing that it was so. And it was, and it is still to this day, the best and worst of it was all for the greatest good. Otherwise, trying to control it, aggressively and manhandle it into what would have been ideal according to my projections would have rendered me exhausted and depleted, as I'm saying, certainly not in overflow, in a loving space to give to whom I was most responsible to give to at that point in time. All the other resistances didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. So the Four of Swords, yeah, it's just like kind of letting, wow, with the Judgment, yeah, being very resolved. I said like an active resolve, I think I did, or something like that. Yeah, like it is well with my soul is the song, is the word that I hear, but it actually is a song. And you know, just being content with whatever fate is unfolding, even as you're actively participating in that creativity, there's still, like, it's a dance. That's the Strength card here. That's the real strength. It's like being just as tenacious as you are what's the right word, submissive, you know what I mean? Or I guess just as aggressive as you can be submissive, and knowing when to kind of turn one up and turn one down, and so on and so forth, because sometimes you do have to be very intentional about just reclaiming your peace or establishing your peace, and being very intentional about what you give life to when there's so many things coming at you at once, or so many things to manage at once. But then you also get to really enjoy the experience itself, and find some type of peace and appreciation for how life is happening for you. You know what I mean? And the Judgment card is like that, like still being responsible for your activity, your actions, your decisions, but also being submissive to the higher calling and the bigger picture at hand. You know, when there is a higher calling, you know, when you feel like it's bigger than what you may perceive of it from your linear scope, you know, and you yield to that, you know. So again, that could be in the unfolding and unveiling of whatever this next chapter is. It's been decided that you are well aligned for it, or else it wouldn't be so. So it's like you get to be just as submissive to that fate as you are co-creative in it, you know. And I feel like that's a beautiful thing right there. Like that is like a mother, like a child-parent relationship as it is, you know, that you can rely and trust in a security that, although it very much so is grounded within you because it's by your own belief and admission and trust that it is so, but almost is outside of you as well, like surrounding you, and yet still be sovereign in your choices and in the creative power that you wield within that security. You know, it's like it's the best of both worlds, but it only really is so on account of what you say it is. You know what I mean? So it's like this is the energy that knows that that is so, where you don't have to really try so hard. You ain't got to prove nothing to nobody. You don't have to raise no shield. You don't have to strike back, none of that, because everything that is assigned to your destiny is already accounted for, protected. And as long as you're in alignment with it, even with this new that is coming through, that will always be so. Let me just do one more because I feel like I've been talking a while. I kind of have, though. Wow, King of Pentacles. Yeah, there's the value, the prosperity right there. That it's all like it's assets well protected, including your own. You as the asset, literally. You know, like you are a commodity, a divine commodity in the earth. And first of all, can we get into it that this is definitely speaking to the manifestation of whatever this expectation, let's say, must be, you know, whatever is coming through. This is the material expression of it. You as the possessor in the King of Pentacles. And I do love that it's the King of Pentacles, because it even is a nod to the fact that some work had to be done in order to be in this position of reception and in this position of prosperity or affluence. So there's that. But he's literally holding the coin, which is to me the symbol of whatever it is that's being prayed for, whatever has been worked on, whatever has been planned for, hoped for, wished for, literally procreated or co-created. You know, in this case, it's like, this is it. It's here, it's in possession, it's tangible, it's physical, it's three-dimensional. It's no longer just an ideal, a good thought, a fantasy, a design on paper, you know, a concept. This is creativity manifested, made matter. So that's definitely a confirmation, as I said, that it's not a question of if. I'm not even so sure it matters about the when, especially given we're ending more or less with the King of Pentacles, because it's just so certain that if it's today or tomorrow, it almost doesn't really matter. Because what does matter, just as sure as if you're carrying a child in your belly, is that as soon as it is so, is as soon as you are so. The two come hand in hand. So it really matters most to prepare yourself to be this King of Pentacles, or whatever aspect of energy you resonate with the most. But this is someone that is more or less an executor of their estate, or at least has a great deal of responsibility and accountability for material possessions. So you're very much so qualified and equipped, for sure. I think it really comes down to, again, allowing yourself to be so. Allowing. Yeah, it's something about that allowing. It's like you don't have to try so hard. You don't have to, what's the other word that I'm hearing? I don't know, but it's something that I want to contrast it with. It's not so much about the creation of the identity, or the like the cultivation of it. It's just, I'm having a hard time really saying it. I think I've said it in different ways, but I want it to be just clear, black and white. The basis of it is that the proof is the truth, and that is what's reflective of who you already are. You've already done the cultivating and the becoming. Now that it is in your hands, and let's just speak presently, now that you're in the position is operative, and you are operative in it. The manifestation is tangible, it's solid, it's three-dimensional. That is the reflective evidence of your identity. So the moment I had that boy was the moment I became a mom without question, and that is what I am now. There is nothing more that I have to do to prove my qualifications to be a mom, because I just am. And I was given the opportunity and the blessing and the privilege to be so well before it became tangible evidence of that identity. But certainly, for sure, the reflection is all that needs, again, what's understood doesn't need to be spoken. There is no consideration of my qualifications at this point in time, and that seems primitive in the scope of motherhood, but I hope that it's relatable in the sense of whatever it is that you are flourishing in at this time, and in this threshold of change, that you really allow yourself to assume that expression authentically, with no inhibition. Wow. And here's the devil card. And what else? The Fool. Yeah, and I knew it was something here that's feeling restrictive, because this is the energy that would want to challenge that new identity. Like, who you think you are? Where you think you going? Like, treat you like a novice, treat you like you don't know what you're doing, or you don't have the skill sets or the experience or the knowledge or the wisdom, the gifts, the talent to be operating in the position that you're in, or in the function that you are. And honestly, not to trivialize it, but it doesn't even have to be any particular external projection as much as it's very much internal. That's probably why I keep trying to drag this point on about knowing for yourself and assuming for yourself your own personal affirmation, knowing you're protected, knowing you're qualified, knowing you already are as you are being assigned, or as your manifestations reflect you are. Because there's plenty of energy, especially given from past seasons of experience. Again, I brought up the word failure, fear, resistance, trauma, just opinions and objections and criticisms. Like, there's so much energy that would just love to put itself right in your path as you are blissfully, on your way to some new realization of life. And that's when you get to turn up the energy on this side of the board. Not so much of this, because this don't do nothing really for this energy, to feel defensive and like you got something to prove, or you have to, you have to be aggressive or vengeful or reactive or responsive. That's exactly what this energy thrives on, to kind of take you out of the element of satisfaction and security, because you're too focused on your physical and energetic safety, to really revel in the satisfactions of life, of which you are due and which you are privileged. to, what you are not privileged, but privy to experience. Like, this is your righteous right over here, and this is the will of the divine. This is the adverse energy that is good for nothing but cyclical trauma. You know what I mean? And to pretty much keep you on a loop of distractions from the bliss that you've been manifesting all along. Perhaps even, so much so that you could be here at the King of Pentacles in possession of all these things that you've been manifesting and not even fully enjoy it, or be in the supreme position to truly protect it and advance it the way that you have the qualifications to do so, because you're too busy trying to defend it, or too paranoid of any impending danger. And it's like, it's all an illusion. That's just really the moral of the story, is that this moment of truth, for some of us that have been believing for just a brighter day, for hell, my son is 9. So, like, not to say I haven't had sunny days and sunny moments, but that holistic expression of satisfaction and wish fulfillment, which, I didn't even say that, and it's 11:11. This is a wish fulfillment card with the 9 of Cups. We've had to really hold fast to that projection, with all the faith and hope in our bodies for many of us, and protect it like we would, an expectant mother of sorts. And you kind of get used to doing that, more so than you get used to actually living in the reality or being in the possession of the thing that you have ultimately been co-creating. And the moment that it appears, and the moment that it is so physically, where there's no room for doubt, there's no question about it, is the prime time for these frequencies, whether they be people, ideas, energies, thoughts, considerations, whatever these frequencies present themselves as. That's what usually the prime time for them to at least, try their luck to see if they can grasp your attention and distract you from this blissful transition. And I just hope that you won't be so distracted, that you'll look right past it. As a matter of fact, that you'll walk right past it and not even give it the time of day. That's whether it's internal or external. Because you don't need no other confirmation of your qualifications and your worthiness to receive your heart's desires than the sheer moment, first of all, that you had the will to conceive of them. That's one. But certainly beyond the moment of which you actually possess them, which, by God, from my lips to God's ears, it must be so for me to spend so much energy on the allowance and the acceptance, the posture of allowance and acceptance of it all. So all I can say is congratulations. Congratulations and best wishes. Best wishes of your wish fulfillments now being realized in the 3-dimensional form. Yeah, that's truly a Three of Cups reason to celebrate. So enjoy. All right. So I'm going to leave it there. Again, happy 11/11. It's never too late to affirm something powerful, even if it's just one thing that you wish to see be true for yourself. But certainly don't limit yourself, because if there's nothing limited, there's another aspect here about it. You have free range and a blank canvas to create as your imagination guides you to do so. And there's nothing too ridiculous, too fantastical, too great, or even too small to consider or to conceive. So, congratulations ahead of time. All right. Thank you for listening and watching. Until next time, as always, I'll leave you with 11/11. Peace.